And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to Whiskey, Wine, and Writing Pitch Wars Edition. It's that time of year again. You know you're excited. We're all excited. And tonight is the middle grade chat, which means we have a whole lineup here of you of middle grade mentors who are here to answer your questions. So if you have them, start hashtagging us at WW Writing. They all have their Twitter tags up so you can see them. And I'm going to go down the line and have them introduce themselves, tell you guys a little bit about themselves, and then if you have any questions, we're going to start asking them live. So tune in, have fun, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you. So first up is the lovely Stacy Graham. How are you, Stacy?
I'm well, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Graham. I'm the author of The Girls Ghost Hunting Guide, which is middle grade, and also I ghost wrote The Boxcar Children Guide to Adventure, which is also kind of spooky, which is middle grade, and then Zombie Tarot and Haunted Stuff, which are adults, kind of spooky stuff, so now you know what I'm looking for. I want the spooky, I want the funny, I want the creepy, I want those things that make you go, ugh, in the middle of the night. So that's what I want. Send it to me.
Awesome. All right, next up we have Rebecca Petrick, and she is also, well, I'm not going to say everybody's a middle grade because we know this is a middle grade chat. So Rebecca, you're up.
Thank you. My name's Rebecca Petrick, and my first novel, Steering Toward Normal, came out last year from Abram Hewlett, and it is about 4-H, raising and competing steers. It's set in Minnesota. It's very cold, but with the cows, they're poop. It's a story with a strong heartline, but hopefully a lot of humor. And my second book will come out next fall, called Will Nolan Eats Bugs, and it's bug eating and middle grade, which go together perfectly. And what I look for is a mix of everything, of course, contemporary, but I also love fantasy, fairy tales, especially really kind of twisted retellings. Magical realism is very near to my heart, and anything science-y.
Awesome. All right, and next up we have Kevin Springer. Take it away, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin Springer. Her first book came out in March. It was Extraordinary Sam and the Adventurers Guild. Working on book 2 right now. My first time being a mentor, and I'm looking for adventure. I like humor. I like tension that's broken up by humor. Helps tense moments for these kids that are reading. Like magical realism, even like graphic novels. I'm not an artist, but I can definitely dig some graphic novels. Spooky, not horror quite, but something that's a little bit creepy, mystery. It's right down my alley.
Awesome. And now we have Kendra Young.
Hi, I'm Kendra Young. I entered Pitch Wars last year with my middle grade novel, Oliver's Ghost Machine. I am now represented by Taylor Haggerty of Waxman Leeville, and I am looking for, along the same lines, spooky, adventure-y. I like very, very voicey novels, that voice that just kind of jumps in and grabs you and won't let go. Anything in the fantasy realm, magical realism, and steampunk. All of my work seems to have a little bit of the steampunk aesthetic to it, but it has to be more about the character than the technology. But definitely love some of that stuff too.
Excellent. And now Kate Foster.
Hello. This is my first time as a mentor. I had my first book was published this year. Winnell Road Beneath the Surface. I love anything dark, disturbing, creepy, horror. I love sci-fi, adventure, humour. Don't tend to read much contemporary or realistic fiction, but some of my favourite books of all time are within this genre. So I'm afraid I am that person that doesn't really know what they want till they've read it. So I guess just really good, strong voices, good stories, and just, give middle grade kids something to enjoy, a bit of escapism.
Awesome. Jessica Vitalis.
Hi, everybody. I am represented by Saba Solomon at Talcott Notch, and my debut novel is a contemporary called Nothing Like Lenin. Definitely looking for contemporary, also have a super sweet spot for magical realism and historical. huge bonus points for anything diverse, I would say, any type of diversity, and yeah, super voicey and anything that's character-driven, so not so much plot-driven action for me. Happy to be here.
That's awesome. And give me half a second because my window froze, so of course I can't click onto JC Davis like that. JC Davis!
Hi, I'm represented by Mandy Hubbard of the DeForio Agency, and my debut novel, Jesus Was Here, will be out next summer from Lux. And you heard the title, Jesus. It's about a tiny Texas town where they find some crazy miracles like the image of baby Jesus inside a baby Welch as well, and the shenanigans that ensue afterwards. I am a major addict, so I pretty much read everything, and I have a special love for fantasy, so I'd love to see some middle grade fantasy, but honestly, I read everything. I read contemporary, I read sci-fi, I love everything. It's individual stories that I end up falling in love with, so send me stories, all the stories. I just want all the stories.
I think JC's going to hog the stories. But anyways, Fiona McLaren.
Oh, hey, I'm Fiona McLaren. I'm a ghostwriter. I also am a full-time scriptwriter on children's movie animations. I've interned with 2 agencies, and I wrote over 100 middle grade and early learner books for international children's charities. I'm co-mentoring with Dion McCullough, who's repped by Writers House. We've agreed that we're looking for anything that's funny, anything that's about adventurous. We're looking for some things that are really upbeat. So basically, we want all of the books that Kevin wants, so you can just send them to us instead.
I think we have a rivalry.
One of our agreements is that we want word count that is tight, so no middle grade books that are like 150,000 words. But as long as it's fun, it's for us.
Awesome. And Catherine Scully. No relation to the X-Files.
Well, no, I've actually been asked that, like, are you related to Dana? And I always say yes. I'm not allowed to talk about it. Hi, I'm Catherine Scully. I am the young adult editor for the Horror Writers Association. I run a blog called Scary Out There with Jonathan Mabry, which has featured a lot of authors answering the question, what exactly is horror in young adult and middle grade? And I'm also a published illustrator, so I'm a writer-illustrator. I wear both hats. I've been published with Claire Legrand, who's mostly known for middle grade, but she also wrote a steampunk retelling of Nutcracker called Winter Spell, and I did the world map for it. I also have 2 world maps coming out by 2016, and those will be announced soon. This is my 2nd year as a Pitch Wars mentor. I'm mostly known for the darkest stuff, for the horror, the hardcore horror. But when I say hardcore, I really just mean creepy and scary, and I don't mean like the young adult level. We're talking the middle grade level of dark. But I'm actually also looking for contemporary, which surprises everyone, but I really like a good laugh. I like stories about siblings. I like stories about ballet and marching bands and pretty much anything cooking related. Also big into fantasy. I'm huge into high, low, magical realism, and sci-fi. My mentee last year was Sarah Cannon, and she signed with Brooks Sherman of the Bent Agency, and she had a Welcome to Night Vale middle grade. So send me everything. I'm really just looking for voice. That's primarily, I just want to fall in love with the voice. I don't really care as much about the genre, because I read very widely, even though I write horror. So send me everything. I just want to see what you got. So yeah.
Awesome. So here we have our introductions. If you are just joining us, remember, if you have any questions for these mentors, you can hashtag us at WW Writing. They're going to be more than happy to answer your questions live for the next hour. And so we actually have our first one in, and this is from Melanie Pendleton. And she says, hi, Pitch Wars mentors. Do you all prefer a certain point of view over others? So Rebecca, let's start with you this time.
I very much lean towards third person close. point of view. I do like first-person voices, but I think we've gone in a direction where a lot of first-person voice relies kind of on snark or coolness, as opposed to leaving room for kind of the more earnest characters. And I think you tend to see that more in the close third person. And those are the kinds of characters that I gravitate towards. So for me, close third, but I do love a good first person if it's pulled off well.
Kevin.
I tend to lean toward third person close as well. I like first person, but I've found that sometimes if they don't nail the first person, the mid-grade voice, it doesn't come off as strongly as really being a first person. So if someone's able to pull off a first person and get that mid-grade voice, I'd probably lean toward that.
Kendra?
For me, it depends on the story, which is probably not the answer that people are looking for. It depends on the character. Like Kevin just mentioned, that middle grade voice is a very tough balance to nail, and if you can balance that correctly, then my preference would probably be first person. But in third person close, I tend to like stories that you can very much hear the storytelling voice of the narrator. So really, for me, it's all about voice.
All right, awesome. And Kate.
Yeah, I'm a third person close. That's my preference. But yeah, first person as well. I love a lot of books that are written in first person. So all of them, again, just everything, every point of view. I take it. Yeah, I read it.
Anything as long as it's written well.
Yeah.
Okay. Jessica.
Yeah, I tend to write in first person. Love a good first person voice, but again, it just has to be done well. It has to be right for the character. It has to be right for the story. So third person is fine. I also love a good third person. So just whatever's right for the story, and first person only if it's done real well.
Jennifer? Uh-oh. JC, sorry, I don't know why I said Jennifer. Please, ignore me. It's what your little box says, and I was reading it. My bad.
It's okay. It's all good. Nobody calls me Jennifer, so I'm like, except my husband when he's like, I'm like, what? Wait. I like first and third. I don't really have a preference. I know that genre-wise, you tend to see first more in YA and third more in middle grade. But I think if they're done well, either one works great.
Awesome. Fiona.
Hey, I'm going to echo what Rebecca said about first person point of view is really good, but the problem is a lot of it has so much snark in it. I'd really love to see some first person point of view that's more earnest, more funny. Obviously, third person close is really nice to read. It's usually nice to get a nice strong narrator. However, our curveball is I'd love to find a choose your own adventure in second person. If I got something like that, I would be so excited. So I'm kind of going across the gamut, but if you have choose your own adventure, I want it.
Holy crap, I didn't know they still did those, to be perfectly honest with you.
There's a romance one that's out. An editor from Random House wrote her own romance version of one. So I want a funny one.
And my friend Alan Gratz wrote a couple of new ones recently, and he said the writing process was fascinating and daunting because there are so many chain trees for each decision. So they are out there and they are new.
That's awesome. Catherine, point of view, what about you?
I want both, but I think whichever you pick, you have to commit to it. Like, if you're going to choose first person, and you really have to know why you're choosing first, because say you want the fear or the laughter to be more immediate, then I would say first. But say you're writing a fantasy and it's a high fantasy and or magical realism and you want to show a whole town of people, then third's probably your better bet. But I'd say like know your voice, and it's good to like play around with both, but whichever one you pick, make sure it's for the right decision, because that's how the voice will come out, and it will be stronger because you know what you're doing and why you picked it. So I think both work in middle grade. Like, I tend to read third, but I write in first. So whichever, really. It just, like, depends on the story, I'd say. Just like everybody else is saying, really.
Okay. Stacy.
I much prefer third person close. However, saying that, I love reading a ghost story in first. But it has to be done well. It has to be really, really strong. And in a ghost story, I find that it really puts that immediacy into the story. You know, some opposed stories that are in first person have done really well. Another first would be Janet Ivanovich's Stephanie Plum series, done well in first. But I find that a lot of other stories kind of fall flat for me in first. So I prefer, you know, if it's not a ghost story, in third.
Awesome. All right, so there you guys have it regarding point of view. Again, if you are just joining us and you have questions for any of these awesome mentors, and you are allowed, by the way, you don't necessarily have to make it a broad question. If you're on the fence and you have a specific question for a mentor, let us know, and we'll ask that mentor, and they'll be happy to answer it for you. Hashtag us at WW Writing. And right now we have another question. This is another broad one for the mentors, from Vanessa Barger at Vanessa Barger. She says, mentors, would you rather see girls or boys as main characters in middle grade novel? Kevin, let's start with you.
I don't think it matters. I just finished reading mid-grade by Paul Durham, the Luck Uglies, and it was an adventure. It was danger and peril, and it was a girl character, and I loved it. It was perfect. So if it doesn't matter for me. I think both can work well if done. If you're a man writing a girl's voice, make sure you understand what the girl's mindset is, because I definitely would have to do research on that to get to a girl's mind. Still trying to figure out whatever it is, I can get into it.
Awesome. Kendra.
If you had asked me that question a year ago, I would have said a girl. Or actually 2 years ago, but that's not necessarily true anymore. I love a good, funny, sassy, hilarious, dirt-covered little boy. So I have no trouble with those stories whatsoever. But I also like to see the girls, you know, jump in and get in with the action as well. So for me, again, it just depends on the story. I love them both.
Awesome. Kate?
Yeah, both. But probably I would like to see more boy characters, protagonists. That would be great. I've got boys, 3 sons, so and I sometimes see them struggling to find books that they kind of really connect with, characters they really connect with. So yeah, I would like to see more boys, please.
All right, awesome. Jessica.
So the protagonist in my current story, Nothing Like Lenin, is a boy, and I love seeing boy protagonists in novels, but I will say I wouldn't be interested in the sort of stereotypical boy if he's a bully or he runs around picking his nose or pushing people down or whatever. That's probably not the thing for me. But if you can show me a different sort of boy, that I think there are boys out there, a lot of boys out there, that could connect to a sort of different kind of boy that's just maybe a little bit more gentle or a little bit more real, then I would be very, very interested in seeing that.
Excellent. JC.
I like either. Just avoid the cliche. That's all. I love books that have strong female protagonists, strong male protagonists. And there's definitely a big market for more male protagonists in middle grade because there is kind of many of them. Female protagonists abound. So.
Okay, awesome. Fiona?
For me, the gender doesn't matter. What matters the most is the personality. Whether it's a boy or a girl, they need to be unique. And I like offbeat characters who have a bit of a different viewpoint. I'm going to agree with some of the other mentors that stereotypes are out for me. But I only think there's a stereotype if you don't dig in enough with your characters. So whether it's a boy or a girl, all I can say is really dig deep on who your character is, and then it doesn't matter.
Awesome. Catherine?
Well, I think I agree with everybody else just by saying I want both. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me, but I will say that in general, I'd love to see more boys because of what was mentioned earlier, that there it's a struggle for boys to find more books they relate to, especially moving from upper middle grade and then into YA, and they start to lose the boy readers. But at the same time, I really want to see more girls in horror, so that would be fantastic. Just girl writers writing about girls, solving mysteries, fighting monsters. I really want to see that. That'd be awesome. But at the same time, I love boy books. I love editing boy voice. I love writing boy voice. I'm very good at it, and I have a lot of fun with it. So anything. And I also think anything that's gender fluid as well, I'm totally open to, and multicultural. So whole spectrum, I'm very happy with.
Awesome. Stacy.
Well, I'm with the others. I could go either way as long as the story's really strong, but I do have a soft spot for those strange little girls, like Mary Cat Blackwood from We've Always Lived in the Castle. I've got a big soft spot for Shirley Jackson. So I would love to see something that focuses on kind of the quirky girl doing their own thing and being their own woman. I'd really respond to that really well. Other than that, if there's a border in there that sparks my interest, I can go either way.
All right. And Rebecca?
Thanks. I've actually been thinking a lot about this lately because I care very deeply about issues for young girls, and yet I write almost exclusively boys in my books. There aren't a lot of girls in them, at least in middle grade. So I've pondered that. Personally, I am interested in either gender. What I've begun to shy away from is the kind of intentional one boy, one girl story, that there always has to be one so that each gender, you can sell the book to each gender. I'm much more interested when the character is a boy or a girl because that's who the character had to be. And I think everyone would agree with that, but especially in commercial fiction, it's almost always a boy and a girl, and it just feels a little craven is too strong a word, but it feels like it's writing to the market, and I'm very much about writing to the story and the story needs. So, like everyone, either gender is just make sure that it's the right gender for that character in that story.
Awesome. All right. And I hit everybody, right? Because I'm trying to tier this so not everybody gets stuck at the first question. Because on my thing, Stacy would be stuck with the first question every time. And I'm not trying to put her on the spot every time we're asked a question. But our next one is actually for our horror and sci-fi mentors who are, let's remind me.
It's almost
Catherine,
yeah.
Catherine and Kate and Stacy. Okay.
And Kendra. Don't forget Kendra.
And Kendra and Rebecca. I don't know. I'll just go down the line. Just tell me if you're not interested. Let's put it that way. So for those who like horror and sci-fi, what tips the scale for you to read one or over the other besides voice? So let's start with Kendra.
I was hoping you wouldn't choose me first.
you were next on the tier.
My brain was in overdrive. Besides voice would probably be setting and world building. If you can really drop me into a location, into a place, and use that setting and use that world building almost as if it's a character, then that would really, really, really draw me in.
Awesome. Kate, are you doing horror and sci-fi?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
You're next.
Okay. I think it's got to be a gradual thing for me. I think from the first page, I want to know there's dark, something's off here, and then I want to see it build. I want to feel, gradual bit of fear creeping in. I want to see the characters starting to get paranoid, a little bit suspicious. So yeah, for me, it's a gradual process, just blending it in nice and subtly as the story goes on. Yeah. So and then you get this big explosion of proper big creepy horror nasty at the end.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Jessica,
those kids.
Are you doing horror sci-fi?
Who did you say?
Who?
Jessica. Are you doing horror sci-fi?
No, most definitely not for me. The closest I would get is probably little magical realism. Actually, a lot of magical realism and just a tiny little bit of fantasy.
See, this is good too. It tells people what mentors are not doing, so it works out anyway.
I'll take a pass.
I'll take horror or sci-fi. I freely admit sci-fi is not my first love. You have to work hard to win me over, but I'm fine with horror or sci-fi done well. World building will win me over, and voice will win me over every time. I really love a good world. I love being immersed in a story, and I know we get tired of hearing about voice constantly, but voice wins.
Okay. Fiona, are you doing horror and sci-fi this year?
No, we're not. We're specifically not doing horror or sci-fi. We're happy with science, if it's real world common science, but otherwise not for us.
Okay. Catherine, I know you are.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, send all of it to me. Don't send it to me. I absolutely love pacing. For me, I can help you build up the world, but the pacing, I really want to be punched in the face. Like, punch me in the face with your words. That's what I really want, because the thing that won me last year with my mentee was she had a school drill, okay, and then all of a sudden the leopards are attacking, and they're having to dive and get these weapons and shoot the leopards, and I'm like, what school is this? And I had to read the whole rest of the book because it was just that amazing. And it made me sit up and go, okay, next chapter, next chapter, next chapter, and just devour the book. So for me, it is the pacing, because these little moments, I worked with her on, like, okay, here we should have a little more of a lull, we should get to know the town, we should see what this place looks like, but she already had that pacing thing down that you needed for sci-fi and horror, where it's that suspense. And if you don't want to drop somebody in the middle of the action, maybe that doesn't work for your book, that's okay. Still send it to me, because I also like where we just have the slow creeping, like we have a chapter, 2 chapters, and all of a sudden, bam, the horror happens later. And that's totally fine too. Or the sci-fi happens and it gradually builds. So I like, with sci-fi, since all of you know me for horror, I'll say sci-fi, I really like it where it's already established where they're on the spaceship. I also like it where it kind of is revealed over time that this is a science fiction, and it's like kind of weird or almost Twilight Zone-esque. So pretty much all sci-fi I love. I watch a ton of it, and I love it at all levels. So yes, pretty much pacing, like absolutely need to have it like down chapter after chapter, because these books are so much shorter. You only have so much time to get a kid's attention, and so that would be the most important.
Okay, awesome. By the way, do you watch Killjoys? I just have to ask.
No, but I'm
watch
always
it, and then I can have somebody to talk to about it. Okay,
yes.
Go watch Killjoys. Sorry, okay. I went off topic. Stacy.
I'm not a big sci-fi person to read, though I do watch a lot of it, and I love it. But for this Pitch Wars, I want to focus on horror. And I agree. For me, it's the pacing and it's the payoff at the end. I'm not really interested in books where you find out it's a dog at the end. I want to have something that's really kind of ooey and scary, and make my 9-year-old look under the bed before she goes to sleep at night. That's what I'm looking for. And again, with the world building, I love haunted house stories. Love them. And so if you imagine your book cover, and if it's got a skeleton or a ghost, special ghost, or zombies, that's the kind of thing that I'm really interested in finding. And we could work on pacing, even if you think just need a couple more scares and thrills in there. We can work on that, and we can find out where those quiet moments are in a story. And I think those are really important, because you can't go action, action, action all the time. You need a moment to let the reader breathe. And sometimes, it helps to have another set of eyes look at that and tell you where to take that pause.
Awesome. Rebecca, are you doing any horror or sci-fi?
No horror, and the sci-fi I like is very kind of based in reality. I think it was Arthur Clarke who said, take your world today, imagine one thing different and then go like 50, 100 years into the future and what that might look like. And so that's the kind of sci-fi I like, that feels very plausible, even though it's quite out there. Even though these examples are YA, I really loved Salvage by Alexander Duncan and the Jenna Fox Chronicles by Mary Pearson. So those are my kind of books where it's very kind of realistic sci-fi as opposed to like lots of aliens or Star Trek. I'm sorry, I'm a Star Wars girl, so.
Can't wait for the new movie in December, I'm just saying. But Kevin, any horror sci-fi coming your way?
As you can tell, I love Star Wars. I had to pull that out before we got on. I like creepy with humor, not strong, right in your face, punch me in my face type. I think it's because I have a almost 8-year-old who gets creeped out over everything, and I have to deal with bedtime, and I was like, I don't want to deal with this. So as far as sci-fi, if you could do middle grade Michael Crichton type stories, Ender's Game. As far as like the creepy side, I'm not sure if you could do it. A middle grade Shaun of the Dead. Where there's enough humor in there that is just, but there's that little bit of horror weaved in, but it's not beating you over your head with it.
That would be brilliant.
That's awesome.
I got dibs. No one's written it. I got dibs.
Oh, no.
All right, and that last question was asked by PD Perhaps. I'm not sure if I actually said that. So this next question, though, I'm not going to pick on a specific person because I'm not quite sure who might have the answer to this. So Emily Unger asks, middle grade Pitch Wars mentors. I've heard reference to issue books. What are these exactly? And then there was silence. It's okay. Becca.
Okay, I'll take a crack at it. I mean, issue books, you see them more in YA, where they're dealing with a teen pregnancy or drug abuse or food addictions or things like that. I can't offhand think of a lot of middle grade issue books other than ones that are dealing with things like a loss of a parent, homelessness. There are more books published by small presses for children whose parents are incarcerated, and of course there's always divorce. So I haven't heard a lot of chatter about issue books in middle grade being a kind of new category that's rising up. But I would imagine that's the sort of thing that is under discussion.
Well, I would consider there's one that I put on my list of favorite books called Love, Aubrey. That's what I would consider a middle grade issue book, and it's about a girl who her sister died, and her family kind of shattered after that, and then her mom abandons her, and she's living on her own, and she's like 10. I'm not sure if that's right. Kill me if you're the author and you hear this. Sorry, it's been a while, but I loved your book. Anyway,
all right.
I feel like issue books are like Out of My Mind is a really popular one. You can get into like diversity stuff. Issue is like an issue book would be any sort of issues that you think middle grades can do. I have my daughter is dyslexic, so if somebody wants to send me a book about children dealing with dyslexia, I'm all there.
Well, anybody else have anything to add?
I would just jump in and say that I think that issue-driven books in middle grade can also translate a little bit into character-driven books. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm hearing some feedback. Okay. So character-driven books, I think, is maybe another way to look at it, where you're not quite as focused on the plot and what the character is doing, but more what's going on internally and what's age-appropriate for, say, an 8 to 12-year-old. So you're looking at what kind of issues those children are dealing with, and so it can be things like divorce, loss of a loved one, dyslexia, other learning disabilities.
Very cool. All right, so I am also hearing a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure where it's coming from. So just if you're not talking at the moment, if we can mute our mics to keep that from building up. And I know Kevin has something to say.
One issue book I recently read was El Defo by C.C. Bell. It's a graphic novel. She has lost her hearing, most of her hearing, when she was very young, and that was a very powerful book. Once I got to the end and started thinking about it, so disability would be probably something else that, I mean, there's some kids in my older son's middle school that have hearing problems, and it's just like no big problem. But I guess some kids have a real big issue of being integrated in and feeling different. So any kid that feels different for some reason, probably wonder as well.
Fish in a Tree is also a fantastic book that I would consider issue-driven that deals with dyslexia.
Very cool. So I hope that answers some of your question about issue books, guys. And so then we're moving on to the next one. Unless somebody else has something to say. Did I miss anybody? I don't want to. Okay, we're good. All right. So next is Jen, and I'm so sorry if I say this wrong, Brizendine. And she says, thanks for the live chat. You're welcome. It's so much fun. I hope everybody's having a good time. Any historical time periods anyone is particularly interested in, or any that you think may have been overdone? So let's just start here. Kate, are you doing historical?
No. It's, okay. I will read historical, but it's not. I just don't warm to historical as a genre, so I'll move out of this conversation.
All right. Jessica?
Yes, I love historical. I don't know that I would say any particular era has been overdone, but I would say that you have to have a really good reason for setting your novel in a particular time period. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to set my novel in the 80s because that's when I grew up and I feel comfortable with that time period. There has to be something specific that happened that makes you anchor your book during that time period.
Awesome. JC?
I'm just really disturbed that she just called the 80s historical, because now I feel like I need a canon.
I know.
Historical also. How sad is that?
God. Don't say the 80s is historical. I was born in the 80s. This is no bueno.
No.
My children is dying right now. I will happily take historical. I don't know that there's any particular era that's been overdone, but I do know that if you look at individual agent websites, there are some periods that they don't want anymore because they feel like they've been overdone. So I think I saw a Civil War era.
Awesome. Definitely do some research on the agents, always, no matter what. Fiona, what about you?
Yeah, I'm happy with historical. Going to say the same as Jennifer. You really need to have a reason to anchor it into a specific place, and you need to check out what the agents want as well, because there is a wide variety of historical that has been done. I'm okay with any era as long as it's adventure-filled and there's a reason for it to be in that era.
Awesome. Catherine?
I'm definitely looking for historical. I actually mentioned that in my blog posts. I love anything set in the past and time travel. I particularly love Victorian because that was where my first love of horror came from, was Victorian horror. So, and I love steampunk like crazy. Like, the peculiar is my favorite thing. And it's very much set in the past, it is not current. So I really would love to see some things that are set in London and also not set in London. And I think this is where a lot of multicultural entries could come in, where if you do the research right, because I know everyone's saying you have to have a reason. I agree with that. So I'm going to build on that by saying that you have to do your research and you have to know what the things were that were said at the time and how they were said. And I can help with that research for sure, and like what things we should look out for and fixing it and finding resources that might be beyond what the writer and myself are both capable of finding out. I love research, and I love cultures, and I love periods of time. I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who, so pretty much anything like that. I also love Greek mythology, so anything set during like Greek Roman era or ancient Japan, feudal Japan. Absolutely, I love Japanese culture. So, and India as well. So pretty much anything, if you know that inside and out, and you can do the voice well, because I know if I set out to say do Victorian, my voice is way too modern as a writer, and I know like I'd have a huge uphill battle to climb. So I really want to make sure if people send historical entries in that they know what they're doing, not just why they're doing it, but what they're doing.
Awesome. Stacy?
I love historical books. Just bring them to me. I'm a historian, so I have that research background, and so I can help writers with that as well. But I want to make sure that the writers, know why they're doing it, and they have their research down pat, because I've been an editor for years, and I will check it. And if something sounds a little hinky to me, I will let them know. I'm kind of a tough editor, but that's good because that brings results too. Periods that I'm really interested in would be the American Revolutionary War period. I don't think there's enough that I've seen. If anybody knows some, please send them to me, because I would love to see it. Also, late 1890s, that time period, 1890s to 1910, before the First World War in England, fascinating time period. I don't see enough about that. I would love to see that. And with your research, just dig in a little bit more. You don't have to go for the big, crazy words. I do see some things coming my way. I'm a apprentice agent for Red Sofa Literary, and I won't be taking any queries until after Pitch Wars. But I do, I'm getting my reading done, and I'm looking at a bunch of queries right now, and sometimes they're a little over the top, and you don't need that. Just talk to us like you would normally talk. And I think it'll go a lot farther as a writer to reach your reader. So,
awesome.
History.
Rebecca?
No historical novels for me, but I do really love magical realism and through the doorway stories, and traditionally they often are anchored in some other era. So I'm open to those kinds of stories, but I don't read a lot of historical.
Awesome. Okay. Kevin?
I think there are others here that would be better served for you, the writer. I don't feel like I'm strong enough there, and that's not my wheelhouse. So I don't think that would be something that I would really be doing good with.
Okay, awesome. Kendra?
For me, I'm going to piggyback off of what Kat said just a little bit. Steampunk is obviously on my agenda as well, so Victorian times definitely, but I would not necessarily be interested in like feudal Japan. So definitely send those her way. Like Egyptian, Incan, we're starting to see some punk going that way too, which I think is super, super cool. And again, like she said, that's a way to bring in some diversity there as well. And so, yeah, those types of things. But historical, 1980s wasn't necessarily historical for some of us.
No.
No. If it's set in 1980, some of us are trying to forget the 80s. And, no, not historical that way.
Awesome. Guys, I also do want to mention that in regards to stuff like this, where you're asking them if they would like a certain type of historical, you can always hit them up on Twitter and be like, this is why we're telling you, ask us questions. Do you want a historical set in feudal Japan? Well, we just found out that Kendra would not, and stuff like that. So if you have a historical set in a certain period, but you don't know if it'll appeal to a mentor, ask them, because they're going to be more than happy to answer you, because we're trying to make sure you find the best match for your manuscript. All right. Next question is from Stella, and again, so sorry if I butcher this name, Najai. She says, thanks for mentoring mentors. Super basic question. Should Pitch Wars queries contain bio info? And I'm just going to let you guys run with this one. I'm not necessarily going to go down the line, unless you think there's certain preferences for that. Does anybody have, like...
Okay, I'll go for this. I think it would be nice, but not completely necessary. If you've got something that you want to know and show a bit of personality, it's good to get to know the person you're going to be working with. It's not like when you do a bio for an agent for Pitch Wars, it's more to get a sense of, although it's what you've done, but it's to find out what you like to write, where your area is, where your strengths are. But other than that, if you've not got something you don't want to put, then it's not a problem either way.
Okay, awesome. Anybody have anything to add?
I would say I think a sentence or two would be nice just to give us a general feel of who you are. If I'm particularly interested in you and a little bit on the fence, I may email you and just ask for a little bit more information about you. So it's not a deal breaker either way.
I agree with Jessica. I'd like a sentence or two about you, and I will be stalking people on Twitter that I'm interested in. Fair warning. If I cannot stalk you on Twitter, I'll be a sad, sad panda, and you really don't want that.
Rebecca?
And for me, if it's relevant, if you're sending me a science fiction story or a story that has a lot to do with science and you have a background in that, I definitely want to hear it. If you are writing about 4-H and you're a 4-H'er, that sort of thing, but only if it pertains to your expertise of the book.
Awesome. Anybody else want to chime in?
I'll add. I totally agree. I want to know why you're good at that genre, maybe what memberships you're a part of already, and then kind of see if you're interested in joining others or but basically, if you do send me your bio and you want to send horror, I don't want to know what was in your past that made you qualify for it. I just want to know your kind of personality. Like, if you've never written a book before, or this is your very first book, or it's your second book, or it's your 70th book, I want to know that. I kind of want to know if you're social media active, because I'm extremely social media active. And see what areas you might want to work on or any feedback with that too. I kind of take on mentoring as a whole package. So I'm interested in working with somebody beyond Pitch Wars. Like, I worked with Sarah, I think, all the way until she signed, which was several months later. So I want to know, are our personalities kind of compatible? Are we going to work well as a team? Who are you? Like, what makes you you? I'm very interested in people. Maybe it's because I'm an extrovert, but I want to know who's applying to me, and anything you'd like to include, funny, witty, very serious, any of that. I just want to know my applicants as people, not just your manuscripts.
Awesome. And Brenda actually chimed in on Twitter saying, yes, the queries should have bios. So if you don't have one, she says, no worries. But, you know, if you do have a bio, like everybody's been saying, it's kind of good to get to know who you're working with, though, you know. Like everybody else is saying, it'll probably be an email thing, too, because your bio is great, but more than likely the mentors are going to ask you questions to make sure they're compatible working with you. So, Kate, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah! See? I know what I'm doing. I'm not too fast. I'm really not too fussed about a bio. Yeah, it's good to put a couple of lines in the query. If your query is one that's going to be going out to agents, then obviously it's important to have a little bit about yourself in the query. But me, I probably am more likely to read your manuscript first. You know, I don't care what you do for a living. If you don't have any experience in sci-fi or whatever in your life, it doesn't mean to say you can't write sci-fi. You know, I'm much more interested in your voice, in your concept, in your book. And then we'll make friends anyway. Me and my mentor, we're besties. So,
awesome. All right. Anybody else have anything to add? No? Good. All right. Moving on. Wendy Paris says, thoughts on, for lack of a better term, incidental diversity, meaning that it's not the main story, but just who the character is. So let's start with Jessica on that one.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, because I love seeing diversity in novels, but I don't want it thrown in there simply because you want to be able to say that you wrote a diverse novel. So it has to feel organic to the character, I guess, would be my answer to that. You know, don't stick it in there just because you feel like you need an African American or an Asian or, you know, a gay protagonist or even to a side character, a smaller character. So make it true to the character.
Awesome. JC?
I'm going to have to exactly agree with Jessica. Diversity done fantastic. And spoken diversity, not so much. I mean, a while ago, I felt like there was a big push to include sexual diversity, so we had more gay characters coming in, but there were a lot of like token gay characters. Look, I have a gay character. I checked my little box. No. Okay? Just people. Just put regular people in your
That's right.
your book. Their world is filled with all sorts of different people. I would love to see them on the pages of your book.
Awesome. Fiona.
I had to just unmute my microphone. That's something that we've put specifically, me and Dion have put it in the blog, that it's incidental diversity is fine by us, but if it's a plot that just revolves around diversity, it's not for us. We love diversity, but it can't be the only thing that pushes the plot. So we're open to any type of diversity as long as it goes around the story and it's natural and organic.
Awesome. Kat?
I definitely would love diversity in any of my books, but it absolutely has to be natural. And what I think, for me, what it means to be natural, that this is just who that person is. This is just their family, and something about who they are lends itself to the story you're trying to write. So, say culturally a family is a certain way, and that would create a certain habit of ritual that's done every day, like a certain time of day that you would eat dinner, or a style of eating with the family, and maybe that would cause, say if you're writing horror, for something to happen at that particular time in a certain way because of that cultural decision and that cultural habit. That's when it's effective, is when you have it playing off of itself. So that's when it's a specific reason. But if you're going to do a culture that's not your own, again, it's the same as trying to write historical. You have to have readers before now that have read it, that belong to that culture that is not your own, and have them pick out these things for you and say, no, that's right or that's wrong. And sometimes that means putting yourself out of your comfort zone, asking somebody you don't know, can you help me with this, and bridging that gap with a potential beta. But it's really, really, really beneficial in the long run to have that kind of feedback with somebody. And if I was sent a multicultural manuscript and there were things were reading off to me, like I'm extremely culturally sensitive, so I would help, being the extrovert that I am, find some readers to fix a manuscript that I absolutely loved. Say I love the voice, say I love the story, but there's some cultural things wrong, I would actually find people that would read it for us and make sure that it's not off. So yes, I would love some, because I feel like I would know what to do in that case.
Awesome. All right, Stacy?
I find that diversity is so important in just literature across the board, but especially in MG when people are learning about who they are and who their neighbors are. And I find that there was a slew of books there where it was kind of, a check mark. Okay, this person's gay, and this person's Muslim, and this person's black. And, I feel that I don't need to have that on the first page. I want to get to know the character. I want to get to know the story. And if they, if something happens, where their family's discussing their own culture in the just normal course of the day, then that's what I want to see. I don't want it to be a big deal. I want to see, a family, and I want to see a child just go through school or whatever's going on, and not have this huge looming issue over them. I want it to be natural and organic. That's what I'm looking for in all diverse books.
Awesome. Rebecca?
What everyone else said. I will add that think about your setting, your place as well. I'm originally from Minnesota, and that's where my books are set. And Minnesota is very, very white, outside of Minneapolis. And but in farm country, the Hispanic population is growing significantly. So in the book that I'm working on now, the major secondary character is Hispanic, and it actually affects the plot significantly as well. So think about situational, think about the setting, think about what the community is like. I was very lucky that we moved from Minnesota to Louisiana, and then Mississippi, and then New York. So I got to see it all. And so if you have any experiences like that, that's great. But even for me having those experiences, I have found 4 middle grade readers who are Hispanic in Minnesota to read drafts of my manuscript, because I think trying to add intelligent and meaningful diversity is really important, and I don't think anyone should get dinged for making a mistake, but it is on us to do our best to not make a mistake and to do it as well as we possibly can.
Sorry if I left you hanging there for a minute. I had some serious lag issues where it's like your connectivity is not working. I'm like, what do you mean? Sorry. Kevin.
Going so late is I don't have very much original to say. You guys put it so well. The character has to fit with that story. If it's putting in there for just the sake of, oh, diverse books are popular, people are saying we want diverse books, so I'll make my main character African American or Asian or Hispanic. I don't like that. It's offensive. But if it's, as I said, organic and they really capture that culture very well, where you feel like you're actually in that that culture and you learn more about another culture, I think it can be very well done, and it's exciting to see other things other than what you're used to. So if it's done well, it's organic, and you've done your research, or you live in that culture, then it's great. But don't do it wrong.
So I think one of the ways to tell if your diversity is going wrong, diversity is window dressing. It's just like, ooh, I'm diverse. Diversity is like organic. That affects the story. It affects the worldview of that person, and affects how that story lays out. And just look at it that way, and maybe that'll help you decide whether your characters are where and what you need them to be.
Awesome. Kendra?
I'm probably just going to echo a lot of what everyone else has been saying. When you say incidentally diverse to me, I kept running that phrase over in my mind, and what do we mean by that? And do we mean just a token character that is diverse just for the sake of being diverse? Just so you can, like they said, check that box, then no, that's probably not what we're looking for. But if you have a character who is a minority and they just happen to be a minority and the book is not about issues relating to that minority, then yeah. So again, it goes back to the whole word organic. Is it natural to the story, and is it just truly part of who the character is?
Did we lose her?
I think we lost
her. Yes, I'm looking at the hashtag, and there is a question for Jessica to talk more about the magical realism or light fantasy she'd prefer.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, because I understand that when many mentors in the past have put fantasy, they get all sorts of submissions. So when I say that I'm interested in magical realism or very light fantasy, I'm talking about stories that are very much rooted in the world that we live in, where maybe there's one little magical element of their life that impacts the story. But I'm not looking for stories that are high fantasy, that are dystopian, that are sci-fi, that are set in other worlds, where there's a tremendous amount of world building that has to go on and for us to even understand the story. So basically think of it as sort of a contemporary story that has maybe just a little bit of a twist to add some fun and adventure to it.
Cool. And there's another question here. How do you feel about animal protagonists like The Incredible Journey or The Art of Racing in the Rain?
Is that for me again, or just generally?
Generally.
Oh, I will ask this, and I think it's really really hard to do an animal protagonist well. The Art of Racing in the Rain is actually a book I loved. I thought it was really well done. Again, it was all about the voice rather than the fact that it's an animal protagonist. They're not the easiest sells, but I do think you have to work out why that's the best option for your book, and not just because you think it might be cool or quirky. Every time you write a character, whether it's human or alien or an animal, there needs to be a good reason behind that choice.
And I'm totally open to getting any animal protagonist stories. I think that would be cool, but again, it has to be done right, and I love The Art of Racing in the Rain. So
I have no idea.
I want it. Well, not that exactly.
Natasha, are you back?
I might be. I don't know. Our net went down. Again, I'm in the boonies until Monday, guys. Sorry. But I assume we finished the question because you guys are amazing. We are actually at the hour mark now. I know we have a few more questions. I don't know if you guys want to answer them or if you guys need to go. It's entirely up to you. Sometimes the show goes over during this time, and if you want to, we can continue, or if you guys have to go, what I can do is I can take these and I can make them into a post and have you guys kind of answer them in an interview style on the blog.
Well, I can
So it's up to you.
Keep going.
Everyone answer at once.
I can stay.
Shoot.
Yep, let's go.
I'm on.
Yep, bring it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
Although I'm, because I'm having such connection issues, I'm actually having somebody else from Whiskey, Wine, and Writing come in, so she can like hear people and understand what they're saying and all that stuff. Give me 1 second. This is what happens when you're out in the middle of Inverness, Florida, that nobody's even.
Okay, we do have a question. Is anyone looking for a tale of witches and dragons that's not high fantasy?
Oh, sorry.
take care.
I was waving.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Kendra, do you want to start?
Yes, yes, and yes again. So yes, definitely. Yes. Yes.
Profound. Catherine?
Absolutely. I love The Witches by Roald Dahl, for example. That would be amazing to have something like that. Something funny with witches, something about sisterhood. Anything with, like, light magic all the way to high. I know they were saying not high, is that correct? Like the question was dragons in general?
Yes, not high fantasy.
Like when I was a kid, I pretty much picked every book in the library that had dragon on the cover and read all of those and then went to everything else. So dragons are one of my weak, like, oh god, yes please, dragons. Yes please. So absolutely.
And I think, Kate, you were waving your hand?
Yeah, I'd take witches, I'd take dragons, I'd take zombies, I'd take vampires. You know, just for me, as long as they're, it's just something different about them. You know, something not your regular.
So she can like hear
really,
people and understand what they're saying and all that stuff. Hi guys. Give me 1 second. This is what
Can you hear me?
in Inverness, Florida, that nobody's even.
Hi. Okay, I do have a question. Is anyone looking for a tale of witches and dragons that's not high fantasy?
I'm sorry.
What's happening?
I was waving.
She seems to be like a few minutes behind.
Do you want to start?
Yes, yes, and yes again. So yes. Yes.
Can she,
Can you hear that?
can she mute?
Absolutely. I love The Witches by...
Suzanne, can you hang up and come back again? Because now we're getting a repeat of answers that we've already given since you signed on. So if you can hang up and sign up, thank you.
I'd like to just say on the witches and dragons, I'm going to echo Kat really strongly. If you've got anything that's like rolled down witches, or if you can put dragons into that sort of idea, not looking for high fantasy, but something that's really funny and quirky and a little different. So if you're sending those to Catherine, stop and send them to me. Sorry, Kat.
Hey, you get to pick 5. You can send it to me too.
Then they'll take you, silly.
No, they'll take you.
Take out my competition.
Okay, and then another question. I'm sorry, go on.
I would say yes. As you can see in my cover, I actually have a dragon on the cover of my book, so that's a definite yes for me.
Show off.
And then we had another question about
Hi guys,
interest in
super quick. Hi.
Hello.
I'm Suzanne. I'm the social media tech monkey. I'm here doing Natasha's job while she is figuring out her internet connection. Sorry, I had the episode playing on YouTube and then tried to log into the call, which was embarrassing. So I'm here. You're doing such a great job. So yeah, go ahead and ask that question. But going forward, I will try to do the best my ability.
Great. So the next question, I think we haven't answered yet, is any interest in Jasper Fjordian literary metafiction, sort of like an MG Thursday Next?
Yes. Don't listen to those other people.
JC, go.
No, don't listen to those other people. I don't care what they say. Just send it to me. I can take you to my bookshelves right now. I have all his books. I'll take them. Send it my way.
And I will fight JC for them, not fiercely. I think she could take me. But I do love that kind of stepping into, through the doorway kind of books, or that magic. It's almost a magical realism taken to the extreme, I think, is how I kind of read Jasper Fjord. So I'm into those kinds of stories. Yes, please.
I would call Jasper Fjord actually British satire. It's a very British satire, and I love that. And I'm actually wearing Monty Python shirt. So send me the British satire. I'm just saying.
Anyone else? All right.
Let's see.
So,
did you guys answer this one yet? What is the maximum age for a protagonist? How about it?
No, we haven't. I think for middle grade, 13, 14 is probably the max of an upper MG, and then you start veering into YA territory.
Yeah.
I think for me it all depends on the subject matter being covered at that age. It could definitely go YA at 13 and 14 as well, depending on what your subject matter is of your book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me 13 and 14 is probably a little bit too old, so I tend to think in more the 8 to 12-year-old age range.
I'd be okay with 13 to 14, but it depends very much, as Kevin said, on how it's based around the character. For example, your young adult tends to look at where the main character is situated within life as a whole and figuring out who they are on a bigger scale, whereas I find that middle grade is more about them in a smaller scale within their community and within their direct life, not just on the bigger scale. So if it's an older age, like 13, 14, as long as the subject matter and the core of the plot stays in middle grade, then I'd be okay with that age.
All right, anybody else?
I would caution, too, about choosing 14. That's that line, I know at least